Hello everyone, I'm Rob Smith, the Smith the Black channel here at Ticker Talker, and oh boy, it's a little snoozy out there. I mean, really snoozy. So this is going to be one of the challenges of my career to talk about this for 15 minutes, but we'll see how long I can go. So one of the good things is we know what's happening. The bad thing is happening, and so what you're looking at here, upper middle, SPY, weak, right? Big range, and then when you close right here in the middle of this range, we knew we had problems because you're nowhere near taking out the highs or the lows of last week. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But then you open as an inside day on a Monday and you inside of that on a Tuesday, doing nothing. So we want to know how you're going to take this out, how you're going to take that out. Right now, nowhere near doing it. For the month, back to almost doji, just it was still a two up, but red conflicted. But this is going to be the story here. How do you get out of this? And how do you get out of this? If you go to QQQ, and so the Qs also here, inside weak, that's a problem. Nowhere near taking that out of that out, and you're going to get chopped up in here when you're doing all these little nothing stuff like that. If we go to the diamonds, look at this. There's your 3-1 coming, inside week coming, and almost doing nothing on the month. So don't worry, summer's coming, and I'm sure that's always going to get us going, but we'll see. We have to wait for these signals to trigger. And first of all, small cappers took that month down, but now back in the middle of the range, and you can just see this meandering, doing nothing here in a tight range. So there's that. So what we want to do, we want to look for certain things like things taking out last week's highs. That's something. So like plug here. See, that's two down, two up on the week. Potentially changes that week back green, or that month back green. And you can see a little bit more pivot up into here. So here's the bottom of the try. So the question is here on the broadening formation. Is it this? And that's it, and down she goes. Or going to take all this stuff using that weekly to get the magnitude to take this out, which is 2882. For these two to become an outside bar of that, you see, and then the opening here was 2854, so that would kick it back into full time frame continuity, and you'd have a little bit more magnitude, and maybe it takes a little bit more, but we'll see. If we go to snow, and snow, you can see like a lot of things, they had some inside months to the downside, lower middle, and then just didn't follow through after that, and then you get your reversal here on the weekly, two down, two up here over 210.88. All right, so that's not bad. And you look for these tight ranges like this because oftentimes that's going to be the middle of the new try. You can stop them out down here and then blast right back through these guys. So we'll see how that goes. Snow right now inside on the 60. If we go to POD, PODD, anything. So at least you have your weekly reversal here. All right, so on the 60 is another thing we would look for. Shooter hammer, two up, we're taking out the previous high, two down, and then take this out if it's going to really go here at all. Or 240, 225, but a lot of force in the things out here, right? So you want to be real careful in this environment. If you got something to go do, I would go do that. PODD. So we just did PODD. We go Twitter. Okay, so here, Twitter on the 60-minute potential rev strat here. It's kicking in right now. The inside bar, the hammer down, and now coming back up on Twitter right now for the next hour over 53.95 because you're also taking out last week's highs. We're 53.18. So you can see if you can come back through this range and at least try and take this out. We'll see. A little quiet on the Western Front, like I said. If you go to Roku, Roku, at least you got an inside week to the upside. Just stalls out like a lot of things are doing here, which you can expect, right? You're still month and down here on that inside month, but it's getting closer to setting up the rev strat because you're closer to taking out the highs of that month than this month than the lows now. So once again, if you look up here, is what we would look for. Take out the previous high, take out the previous low, boom, take this out, and off you go. But we'll see. If we go to ENPH, ENPH, weekly hammer, at least you're still right on the month, but you can override that with the 2-2 week. If you can take this out and stay above it, over 122.85, you're there right now. So we'll see if that can stay up there. If we go to BEAM, and BEAM, once again, here's that week. 2 down, 2 up reversal week. Look, a lot of things, those months. Inside month to the downside, but coming back, setting up the Rev Strat monthers. That could get something going next month, but we still got some time on that. And so, as long as this is above 72.86 this week, you got it, and you got a nice little push there to start it off. And you'll see something like this on your daily. And there you go. You can keep an eye on that. Nice broadening formation you got there, Rob. If we go to BXP in the rates, and just had a nice follow through. And this is what you look for, like on a Tuesday. Things that followed through had a nice Monday and then a nice Tuesday and followed through. Taking out last week's highs. Been a lot higher in the past. Trying to get through all this kind of stuff, but BXP is kind of sticking to them just a little bit. If you go to Triple D, and Triple D here on the month, trying to come back for an outside month. Took out one side, and we know taking out both sides happens. So you can see all that higher high and then all the slight lower low, and now coming back through previous range here on your weekly. Having a nice little day there, and that tells us to look at SSYS. And SSYS here, 2-2 week on the upper middle, lower. All right, upper middle takes out the previous low, takes out previous high. So for the rest of the week, SSYS get over 2062. Right, to see if that can also come up here and change that, get that that month going. If we go to SI, and SI just trying to creep up on this thing here. That's 104.48. So you're just sitting right around there. So you can keep an eye on this. See if you take that week out and then go after all these guys here. We call that the pivot machine gun. The walk it down, walk it down, walk it down short guys. And then stops going on all here, and then boom, if we can get back up through that level. If we go to LEGN, LEGN, one things we look for, an outside day, took out both sides, the previous range. Then the inside, 3, 1, 2, and bam, off she goes. Takes out monthly hammer, and having a nice day, but like a lot of things, are going to dry up in here. Still need another buy signal. So you got your profit taking sell signal here, your inside bar to the downside. Now to get your rebuy, the down and the inside and back up. We'll see in a while. If we go to Sarepta, and Sarepta, the old used to be somebody coming back up here on a gap. So now right now, watching this on the 60, if you can do this, take out the previous high, take out the previous low, and above this, 83.86 for the next hour. If we go to Coop. And Coop, so one of the things that we're seeing here is like there's a lot of really tight ranges in here. So normal setups that we've been looking for, you want to be real careful when you're still an inside week. You see this? Because this is still inside month to the downside and closer to taking the month down. And you notice this is what we look for, an inside bar, poke down and then come back up for the Rev Strat. However, the magnitude's only to take this thing out. So it did it. These two become an outside bar of that, and these three are an inside bar of this, right? And this is why you got to watch those longer time frames. Otherwise, you get caught in this stuff, and you look at stuff like SQ here, 3 days stuck inside of here. Tesla's 3 days and stuck inside of this bar here. If we go to the team here, let's. Uh-oh. we go. So the team doing it, but not a little bit different. You can see the team still an inside week. That's an issue, but some of these things do move around enough to get in on. And you'll see that does that RevStrat setup, but it's not an inside bar of all this, albeit these three are inside of all these three. So you got a little bit more out of this one because your magnitude was to take this out, which it did, right? Because these two now become an outside bar of that. If we go to crude coming in here a bit, we know crude on the monthlies were giving us a lot of this good signals, but then crude today comes and takes out yesterday's lows and has a rough one now, just like the weekly SPY and everything. Look at this. How are you gonna get outside of this range here? Well, your hopes is maybe during the Earl number tomorrow morning, but that's when you start to get stuck on things. And so we know that most of like XLE and everything still was good on the month. It's just starting off the new week inside to see if anything followed through. So yesterday they came in saying, yay, we like oil, and today not so much. And if you go to Chevron, and you'll see here, yesterday here, bright green, and then gap down to here. Everybody got, this is called a kicking pattern. Everybody who got bought yesterday got jammed, and these two immediately became an outside bar of that. We'll see if anything more comes of it. Not the end of the world for a monthly, but still an inside week, and there's still a lot of things staying inside week. And if we go to John Deere, John Deere still handling an inside week, just nice long red bar in the day, and so that's what we look for. If you're going to trade at all, you want to find nice long red and green bars. If you go to Cummins Engine, also having a problem because yesterday gapped up slightly. You can see that, and the that was still a 2 up, and then boom, these two become an outside bar of all that, and we'll see if more comes of it. Still inside week would be the problem, and now you're inside on the 60. If you go to Humana, and not the end of the world, it just has 2 days of micro selling to take out last week's lows. All right, and the reason that's important is now you might change that month back red. All right, so we'll see what comes of that. If we go to CarMax, and CarMax is an inside day to the downside, still an inside week, outside month still. So here you can see this was 2 down, but green, and then popped them back up. And now here's the 212 and bring her all the way back down through. So hopefully they can do a little more damage on that. If you ENPH going with the highs as I speak here, and once again, there's your 2.2 on the week over 22.85, and as I say a lot, you can tell a lot by the scans. So if you look at the difference of what's going on here, these are all inside weeks so far. And I know it's only Tuesday, but Apple, GE, Tesla, AMD, FCX, letter X, Exxon, MU, Mara, Oxy. It just goes down the line, all right? Facebook, Microsoft. And then if you go to the list of here, who's taking out yesterday's lows? Last week's lows, I should say. Last week's lows. Telephone, Disca, Verizon. But you can see there's not a whole lot of movement on these things, right? And there's not a whole lot of names. But this is where you want to look if you're going to be trading at all in this environment. So you got Lowe's Corp, you got a Weyerhaeuser, some home builders, and there's your Humana. And then if you go to who's taking out last week's highs. All right, you got Ford, Palantir, Plug, which we just talked about, American Airlines, Uber. All right, so some of that Walmart earnings coming out. Twitter, we just talked about that. And so this is how you're going to go down and find your hit list. Right, there's CVS, because these are things that are doing things. Because this market is doing nothing, right? So and until that changes, be real careful, on all this stuff, because a lot of stuff, like I said, is doing nothing. All right, that's going to do it for today. I'm Rob Smith, the Smith and Black Channel here at TikTok with Strat Time Report.